Task 3 Hardware. Task 3 Hardware can seem long and intimidating if you are not sure what you are doing. The workflow diagram that I am about to show you here hopes to help you figure out what you need to do in this particular task. So section 3.1 is basically a workflow diagram. So the fundamental thing, or the fundamental question that you're going to be asking yourself at the start of section 3.1 is, does your computer meet the recommended hardware requirements? And section 3.2 will provide a list of specifications. These are recommendations and not necessarily minimal requirements. Hardware supports the software which supports your design work. Minimal hardware specifications support getting the application installed and doing the bare bones minimum. Recommended are specifications meeting the needs of your particular field of study. So after asking this question, there's going to be three possible answers. The first possible answer is going to be yes. And if you answer yes, your computer does meet the recommended hardware requirements, then you can proceed on to task 4, operating system. There's nothing much more that you need to do here. The second question, or the second possible answer that may come out of this question, does your computer meet the recommended hardware requirements, is of course no. And if you answer no, then you need to visit task 3.5, what to do if your computer does not meet the recommended hardware requirements. So in this section, of course, the main driving factor is going to be money. Can you afford to make these upgrades? And the other thing that you want to take under consideration is how much more time, how much more longer you have with your education. So if you're a new incoming second year, then you're definitely going to want to make these upgrades because this computer is going to have to last you. If you are a fifth year and this is your final year in school, you may not necessarily want to spend that much money upgrading your computer, and then maybe the hardware that you have will be sufficient enough to get you through one more year. So it's all about bringing balance to make sure one doesn't overweigh the other and taking under consideration how much more time you have left in your education here. And then it may be that if you're a new incoming second year, that you're just going to end up having to buy a whole brand new computer. And if this is the case, you're going to want to visit this website here to take advantage of some bulk discounts. The third possible answer to does your computer meet the recommended hardware requirements is I don't know. And this is probably an answer that maybe more than half of you might answer, mainly because you don't really know much about what's going on with your computer. So task 3 hardware tries to give you a little bit of understanding about your computer's hardware. So this is covered in section 3.3, where it goes into some detail, giving you some really basic awareness and knowledge about computer hardware. It doesn't make you a technician of any kind, it's just giving you some basic knowledge of hardware so you have some understanding of what's going on with your computer. And then you'll need to proceed on the task 3.4, how to tell if your computer meets the hardware requirements. This is where it will ask you to download the Belark reporting software, to install the Belark reporting software, and then you'll get the opportunity to scroll through the Belark software to kind of pull out certain hardware components that you need to compare with the college specifications. And then finally, you'll do a comparison between your hardware and the college recommendations to determine if your computer passes or fails the check. And finally, hopefully you'll have enough information where now you can loop back to this question, does your computer meet the recommended hardware requirements? You should be able to answer yes or no. So if anything in the spreadsheet says fail, then obviously the answer is going to be no. And if your answer is no, then you're going to end up going to section 3.5, what to do if your computer does not meet the recommended hardware requirements. And there's a list of recommendations there as to what you need to do or don't do. And eventually you'll loop back to the question again, does your computer meet the hardware requirements? And you'll eventually get to yes, and you can proceed to task 4, which is covering the operating system.